This acrylic fish tank has rounded corners on the front and rounded corners on the back. So what I need to do is, to get the proper measurement of my miters, I need to make these rounded corners square. And to do that, I'm just going to take my straight edge and I'm going to extend this line, and then I'll flip my straight edge over here and I'll extend this line to where it gives me my corners. And then I can take some good measurements of where this needs to be. And I think what you'll find, what I'm going to find, I'm not positive yet, but I think I'm going to find that these two sides and these two sides are identical in length, and this side are identical to length. So this will be a hexagon that doesn't have all four or all six sides are not going to be equal in width. They're going to be a little different sizes, which kind of complicates things just a little bit. But I do really like acrylic fish tanks, and I think I'm going to be on board for that. So I'm not going to cut this out yet. I really want to cut this template out, but I need to wait because it's going to help make sure I get the angles right on my miters and the length. Not so much the angles, but the length. Now I do have these glued up now. I've planed them smooth and they are pretty much ready to go. I used 3 boards on most of these. And one thing I want to maybe point out is if I let these sit here, because they're a little under 3/4 in thickness, they're going to want to warp on me. So they're around 11/16 right now, just under 3/4. And if I let them sit like this, they're probably going to warp pretty bad. So it's really important that I cut these miters today, or maybe I'd clamp them together or put some weights on them so they don't take off on me and warp. I am ready to cut my miters now. So what I have is a table saw is set with a 30-degree angle, and I have my edge jointed, so the edge is good to go. And I want to keep the good side up, so I want to have my best face up. And I measured, my measurement that I'm going for is about 10.5. But the measurement that I have right here, I've measured from the top angle of the blade over about 10.75. So I have a little extra right now than I need. If you can hear that cricket in the background, it's kind of funny, Hopefully I don't sound that boring to where it's like crickets in the background, but you never know. So there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and rip these. I got to turn on my dust collector first, and then I can rip these pieces. really trying to apply as much pressure downward as I could, because I don't want the board to rock at all. So if it starts to rock at all, my miter is not going to be very straight. So I was trying to put some downward pressure on that. So now I'm going to flip the boards around. Alright, I'll run this angle, sharp angle against the fence, and I'm going to cut it closer to where I want it. So my measurement was about 10 and 9/16 is what I need to do for the miters to work out. So that's my next step. Alright, one thing I need to elaborate on is you're not setting this measurement at the measurement you want. You need to actually mark your board from your corner that you just cut over to the new corner. So there's the angle I just cut, and then my next mark is going to be over here, and I need to set my fence up to that mark. If I go by this measurement right here, it's not going to be right. So I've seen people do that before, where they figure out their measurement and just set the table saw at the measurement like they normally would, the rip fence. And this is not the case for this project. You can't do it that way. So I'm getting ready to cut my sides to length. And I decided to use a sliding miter saw for that because it's over 8 inches. So I got down my sliding miter. I don't use this every day, but it does help with this. If you don't have a sliding miter box, you could just use a table saw with a miter gauge, and that will help you out too. But what I did set up here was a stop block. I just screwed this onto my table. My miter box is screwed down to my table too, just a little bit. And that way I can butt the cut end up against the fence. So I cut one end of all the boards just to get it square. And now I can just put these up to my fence, my auxiliary stop, so to speak. And then I can recut them all that way. So why this is so nice is because I really want them to be the same length. Because it's really hard, once I glue this up, it's really hard to straighten it up if they're not all the same length. So I call this a really important step. If I'm doing it on the table saw with a miter gauge, I can also set up a stop block on there. I just got to make sure when I'm cutting it, it's not binding on the rip fence. So this is how I would do this. I'm just going to position this. I'm trying to push my force so this stays flat, and I'll bring it back out. Oops, I just killed my power. Now hopefully they'll all be the same length for me. Alright, I'm going to put this together, and this is going to be tricky. This is when you're going to watch me struggle through this. If my students were watching me do this and I was struggling, I always think that they're going to laugh and make fun of me. They might be doing that in their head, but they actually have a little sympathy for me. So you might see me struggle a little bit right here, and that's okay, because that's part of it. What I did is I took my template and I screwed one board vertical to that. Now, sometimes I'll put a dado groove in here and I'll have a bottom that goes in, and that can be kind of handy too. But you don't want to glue in the bottom, especially if you're using solid wood, because it's going to lock it in and it won't be able to expand. So that wouldn't do me a ton of good here. But sometimes I'll put the bottom in, I'll actually nail it in, and I'll put trim around those nails or something like that, and that will hold it together while I'm gluing it. But I didn't really want any shelves on this fish tank stand. There's just not a ton of room for that. So I decided not to do that. Or I might put it a little bit of a shelf afterwards. But I'm going to glue it up just like this. So I have my glue ready to go. My glue bottle isn't plugged up. I went to the bathroom to make sure I didn't have to do that in the middle of this. And I just want to get through this as fast as I can. So I'm going to start off with just gluing this piece. And then I'm going to put my back. I'm picking out the worst one for the back. I already have the worst one on there. Put a little tape on there. If you're nervous about this, I might go ahead and try this. You know, dry fit it once and give this a go first before you put glue on it. So I'm putting a generous amount of glue on. Moving right along. I like the grain on this one, so I'm going to showcase that a little bit. Actually, I noticed a little defect, so I'm going to move it to the other side. I had to move the whole thing a little bit because there was a screw protruding. The head of the screw was pushing up a little bit and kind of messing up my task here. I normally would double spread the glue on this, but I don't know if it's really going to be necessary. I'm getting enough glue on here. I'm trying to make it nice and flush at the top. That's actually kind of one of the trickier spots. This might be a good idea to call a friend for some help. Have them help you out with this. I fly solo quite a bit on projects, so I'm used to the struggle a little bit. I think I find the struggle the challenge sometimes. Got a little sloppy with the glue, but I'll be on the inside. I made sure to change into some old clothes. No, I didn't do that. All right, I'm going around this way. That piece isn't probably going to do much. I got out more tape than I needed, maybe. Really want the top to be flush. It's important to me. Okay, I'm using some Merle corner clamps here. They're not sponsoring this video or anything. I kind of wish they were. That'd be cool. But I do like these clamps. I've been using them for a lot of years now. Not the exact same ones. They kind of wear out after a while. I use them on picture frames, all kinds of different things. This is where an extra set of hands would be very helpful. But you can get it. Alright, so now I'm going to inch this up a little bit. Try to go up a little further past my tape. Okay, I got it where I want it. I'm going to start to tighten the clamp. Looking at the top again, seeing it staying flat. It's pretty flat. Quite like it right here, it's close. So now this is where I might take out the screw now. I don't need the screw in anymore on this template. So now I can tilt it a little bit and try to adjust these pieces just a little bit better. Same things happen here. I like that. That's working out pretty good. I have my other clamp ready to go. I'm going to put that over the top. Line these up. I want to say this is going better than I expected. So if you struggle more with this, don't feel bad, because in the past I've struggled more with this than I am today. So this is going very smooth. And I think what's really helped me is that I didn't wait. These boards have not sat around and had time to warp. So as soon as I planed them down, they are good to go. So one thing I'm worried about right here is I feel like the tape is getting caught in the glue joint. I don't want that. If the tape gets caught in the glue joint, it's extremely hard to get out, and it leaves, like a blue mark. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. The joints are pretty tight, really. I have a lot of extra glue on this joint, so I need to clean the glue off there. I might put one more clamp in the middle, but otherwise, there you go. That's how you glue up a hexagon. So I'm pretty excited. It's going to be a really nice fish tank stand, I think. So now I can take my template. I'm done using my template for this stuff. And I could, I don't even have to, I don't even really have to cut this template out. Because at this point, I could put my board under here and trace it. And just get close, and then I can flush trim it up to the piece. So that's probably what I'll do. Right over here, I have my top and bottom all glued up. So I'm going to slide it underneath there. And then trace it out, and then rough cut it. Then I'll use my router to flush trim it. The only thing that's not going to help me with would be the rounded corners. So the rounded corners would still be off a little bit. But I might just go ahead and do it that way. saw me do there was a climb cut, so I went around backwards first, and I only took a little bit off. I didn't push it all the way up against my template. I just let it take it easy. And then I did a correct cut, and I went around the right way. So when you're cutting, when you're routering something that's on the inside like this, the correct way is clockwise, and the incorrect way is counterclockwise. But when you're using a straight flush trim bit, it's kind of aggressive on oak, especially with the grain pattern. So it's better to do a little bit of a climb cut, go the wrong way. Just be careful because it wants to grab a little bit. So you have to anticipate the router wanting to grab the bit a little bit. You just have to go easy. And then you go ahead and do the correct cut on the final pass. And it works out super smooth. So now I have to remove my double-sided tape. And what you'll see here is now I have a spot for my router to ride on. So look, I could cut all the way through this. This was 3/4 thick. The bit's not long enough to do that. So now I can adjust my bit back, and now I don't need my template anymore. It can just ride on the part that I've already done. So it's a pretty handy way to accomplish this in the least complicated manner possible. So I'm going to fire this back up. Okay, I went over a little extra that time just to try to get the smoothest cut possible, but I'm pretty happy with this cut. It turned out pretty good. There is a little need for some sanding, but not much at all. And it's really, I mean, it's going to be really nice and clean. I'm going to router this sharp corner because we're reaching in there for the fish tank stuff, and that will kind of help. But I'm not going to router it much. I'm just going to take off a little bit. But that, boy, that really it did the trick, I think. So I also started working on the top and the bottom, and I just took those. You know, these are glued up boards that I traced, and I just rough cut them on the bandsaw. You could rough cut them with the saber saw as well. You don't have to, you know, get these perfect. They're a little bit too big because I'm going to use a flush trim bit again to make them exactly the right size. So they're a little bit oversized.